What if the message that changed the world was never meant to stay in one place? What if the people who once hid in fear were now being sent to reach the entire world? And what if the mission that began then is still continuing through ordinary people today? The resurrection had already happened. The empty tomb had been discovered. The silence had been broken. But something even greater was about to unfold. Because the story was never meant to end at the tomb. It was meant to move, to spread, to reach beyond one place, one group, one moment. Jesus appeared to his disciples. These were the same men who had followed him, walked with him, listened to his teachings, but also the same men who had struggled, who had doubted, who had run away when things became difficult, who had hidden in fear after the crucifixion. And now everything had changed, not because they had become stronger on their own, but because they had seen something undeniable. They had encountered something that reshaped everything they thought they knew. And in that moment, Jesus gave them a command. Not a suggestion, not an idea, a mission. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. Go. That word carries movement, action, direction. It's not passive, it doesn't wait, it steps forward. And that's where everything shifts. Because up until now, they had followed. Now, they were being sent. And that changes identity. From learners to messengers, from listeners to voices, from observers to participants. Go into all the world, not just your town, not just your people, not just what is familiar, all the world. Different cultures, different languages, different perspectives. This message was not limited, it was not exclusive, it was meant for everyone. To all creation, that's expansive, that's inclusive. That's a reminder that the message was never meant to stay contained. It was meant to move outward, to reach places it had never been, to impact lives that had never heard. And then comes something even more personal. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. This is not just about movement, it's about response. Because the message requires something, not just hearing, but believing, not just observing, but choosing. And that's where it becomes personal, because every person who hears has a decision to make, to accept or to reject, to step into it or to walk away. And then, something unexpected. Signs will accompany those who believe, not just words, not just ideas, but evidence, something that follows, something that confirms, something that shows that this is not just a message, but a living reality. In my name they will drive out demons, authority over darkness. They will speak in new tongues, a breaking of barriers, communication beyond limits. They will pick up snakes with their hands, and when they drink deadly poison, it will not hurt them at all. Protection. Not recklessness, but a statement that the mission is not dependent on circumstances. They will place their hands on sick people and they will get well. Restoration, healing, transformation. These signs were not the focus, they were the result. They pointed to something deeper, that the message carried power, not just information, but transformation. And that's important, because it means the mission was not just about speaking, it was about impact, about change, about something real. The disciples heard this, received it, and now they stood at a crossroads, because everything they had known was about to shift. Following was familiar, being sent was different. It required courage, trust, movement into the unknown. And that's where this connects to us, because the Great Commission is not just a historical moment, it's a continuing mission. The words "go into all the world" still echo, still call, still invite. And maybe the question is not just, what did they do? But what do we do now? Because we all have a world around us, not necessarily distant countries, but people, conversations, moments, opportunities. The mission doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks simple. A conversation, a word, a choice to share something meaningful, a decision to live differently, to reflect something deeper. Because the message is not just spoken, it's lived, seen, felt. And that's where the power lies, not in perfect words, but in authentic expression. The disciples didn't have everything figured out. They didn't have complete clarity, but they had something real, and that was enough. Because the mission is not about perfection, it's about participation. Being willing to go, to step forward, to engage, even when it feels uncertain, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels beyond what you think you can do. Because the command was not based on their strength, it was based on something greater, something that would work through them. And that's what changes everything. Because it means the responsibility is not to have all the answers, but to respond, to move, to trust. The Great Commission is both simple and profound. Go, share, believe, and let the impact follow. But it also raises a deeper question. What holds us back? Fear, doubt, uncertainty. The same things the disciples felt, the same things that made them hide before. But something changed, because they had encountered something real. And that gave them courage. Not because they became fearless, but because they had something greater than their fear. And that's what moves the mission forward. Not perfect people, but willing people. Not those who have everything figured out, but those who choose to step forward anyway. The message of the gospel is not meant to stay contained. It's meant to move, to reach, to connect. And every generation has a role in that, a part to play, a moment to respond. This is not about standing on a stage or speaking to crowds. It's about everyday moments, ordinary spaces, real conversations. Because that's where impact happens, quietly, consistently, authentically. The Great Commission is not just about going far. It's about going where you are, being present, being intentional, being willing, and trusting that what you carry has the power to make a difference. Because it's not just a message, it's a reality, a truth that transforms, a hope that continues, a purpose that extends beyond any single moment. The disciples were sent, and they went. Not perfectly, not without struggle, but they moved, and because they did, the message spread. Lives were changed, and the story continued. And now it continues through us, through choices, through actions, through willingness. The question is not whether the mission exists, it does. The question is, how will we respond? Will we stay where it's comfortable, or step into what we're called to do? Will we hold on to what we've received, or share it? Will we remain silent, or become part of something greater? Because the call to go is not just for them. It's for anyone willing to listen, willing to move, willing to be part of the story that is still unfolding. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to your heart, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it today.